From beautiful downtown Millheim, in the smack-dab center of the Keystone State, this is Lou Bryson with Seen Through a Glass, the podcast that's mostly about food and drink in central Pennsylvania. Yes, that's right, we're back in our newly renovated house in Millheim. After imposing ourselves on our daughter and her cat, Louie, who's a darling boy, since June, the return has finally begun. There's still a lot of work to be done outside when it warms up. The basement bar is still under construction, and the library needs shelves, and the recording studio is back on the drawing board, but we're home, so let's get to work. Welcome to episode 31. Let's talk beer. I've been wanting to get more beer content into the show. I know you like it, and many of you have followed my beer writing for years, and I thank you for that. So I tried an experiment this time. I reached out to Ben Kline, who helms a Harrisburg-based blog called The Beer Thrillers. The Beer Thrillers is a team-written blog that's mostly about beer, but there are book reviews and travel logs and pizza reports. You can see why I was attracted. Ben, along with fellow Beer Thrillers writers Amy Wolfe and Josh Doncevic, were able to join me for an interview back in the brew house at Boneshire Brew Works in Harrisburg on a very snowy day. It was a challenging drive home to Center County afterward. It's a fairly lengthy interview, but we were talking about interesting stuff. Hazy IPA dominance, the return of classic styles, the life and death of beer bars, and the thing that's been on everyone's mind lately, brewery closings in central Pennsylvania. So, most of the episode is going to be that interview. I'll give you a brief report on our family visit to the farm show and tell you about the Burns Night dinner we're boldly hosting as we unpack at our just-finished home. We're going to get to all of that, but first, here's what we did a round of here's what we're drinking today in the interview. Let's just roll the tape. Buckle up for the Beer Thrillers at Boneshire Brew Works. Hey, I'm at Boneshire Brew Works with the Beer Thrillers. Do you guys introduce yourselves around the table?
All right, I'll kick off. Ben Kline.
My name is Amy Wolfe.
And I'm Josh Doncevic.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out. It's a snowy-ass day. I appreciate you coming out.
Well, I mean, it's farm show, so...
That's true.
Farm show week,
I didn't know the weather was coming, right?
It's almost like a guaranteed at this point.
Yeah.
There was that one year.
I think they've actually looked it up, and it's not, like, as accurate as we think it is. It's just we always... Like that biasy mindset.
Yeah, you believe it.
Right, yeah.
Somehow became some sort of cliche thing, and now we always just expect it.
Yeah. I mean, it is January, so...
Thank you.
Oh my God, a pizza just arrived. Wow.
Yeah.
Yay.
Wow.
Tomatillo pizza.
Awesome. Look at that. You guys are bloggers, and what's your I mean, I've seen just about everything on your blog, book reviews and beer reviews, and
It's a bit of a mix. Yeah, it's a full bag of things. Started it in 2019. I was going through a divorce, and I was like, I need something to kind of fill my time and everything. So I started up a blog then, mainly just like beer reviews and a few, like I'm traveling here, doing this, that. Always like, knew Josh here at Boneshire and stuff, and he's always very descriptive with his beers. So
That's a nice way to put it.
right. So
He's just being nice.
Right. So I kind of unleashed him onto the blog. Started hooking up with Amy.
Literally.
Right. As a nice way to put it.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
very nice, very nice.
And then and she has a much better finesse of media and things like that than I do. So she's definitely helped out, and she has her nice little own column and everything. But over the time it'll be 5 years now in May.
Wow.
Since it first started.
Congrats.
It's grown to be a lot more, like, just in my own ramblings of, like, all right, I read about 100 books a year, so I was like, you know what, why not throw some book reviews on, like to go hiking, do some hike reviews, stuff like, if I'm going to be out doing it, why not just take the little bit of time and write about it kind of stuff.
Yeah, I actually enjoy the book reviews quite a bit.
And recently, about maybe not quite a full year now, Paul Can has come on and helped out, and he's actually getting our site redone for us because I have like zero HTML skills, all that stuff, and he's getting it set up with a guy. It should be probably done within the next week or two. A brand new like rebuild on this site.
Oh, fantastic!
And he's done some book reviews and a few other like little like
Articles.
interview type articles for us. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of. I have to be honest. Reading it and looking at it encourages me because I really want to do a little more than just food and drink.
Right.
So I figured, why not? What the hell?
It is. I do enjoy the idea that like talking about breweries gets people into trying out a new place. Because at the end of the, like, I always think about this. Like, at the end of the day, every single one of the breweries we've been to is like a mom and pop shop.
Yep.
It's like outside of obviously the macros and stuff, it's still like even Trogs, as big as they are, even
Yingling,
right?
Yep.
They're still like a family, business. It's not, it's not like we're like facing off against like Walmart, like
right.
It's good to get like word of mouth out for places that maybe like you look at their social media page and they have like 400 followers as is, and it's like, all right, you guys are putting out some decent stuff. Let's at least let people know about it. Yeah.
So, speaking of beers, this is kind of the part where I usually say this is what I'm drinking today. So let's take it around. What do we got?
So I have in front of me Boneshire's Mexican Lazarus,
which is the beer everyone keeps talking about when I was
Yep.
here. Yeah.
And there's good reason about it because at its base it is Lazarus, which is a Russian Imperial. If you look at the spelling of it, Lazaris, and RIS is in capitals because it's a Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
Typically sits around 9.5%, so it's almost 10% territory. When they do variants of this beer, they can get over 10%, or what I like to call big damn beers.
Yeah.
Mexican Lazarus is their take on, think of Chocoveza from Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to have cinnamon, it's going to have chocolate, coffee, and my favorite pepper, habaneros.
Wow.
Sits
Nice.
at 10%, and for me, it's a very easy drinker. For whatever reason, Lazarus from Boneshire just goes down way easier than it should.
How's it feel in the mouth? Heavy?
No,
peppery?
honestly, because, and I swear to Alan that his Play-Doh, so in other words, the residual sugars that are left over, I swear it's very close to 1.
Wow.
Because the closer you get to 1, the easier that beer, regardless of ABV, is to drink.
I do love a dry imperial.
Yeah. This 10% drinks like a 6.
That's scary.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But this year's Lazarus, you are greeted with cinnamon and chocolate that goes into that coffee bitterness. And then at the end, you get a nice warming sensation from the habanero.
Cool.
If you can't tell, I'm a little biased, but I'll admit
It's a
it.
favorite.
Amy, what do you have?
I have the Green Machine with the variant that has coconut in it.
And the Green Machine is
It's one of their flagship beers, so it's one of the IPAs. It's one of those beers that, like, I can't go wrong if I get the Green Machine. So maybe I should have worn a Hawaiian shirt to go with the coconut variant, but it's nice and light.
How's that working with the coconut?
I think it's good.
Yeah?
I think it's good. It's not overpowering. It's not in your face. It's just kind of hanging out there with you, and you're having a good beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Ben?
I always have to, if I'm able to here, if they have it, the barley wine is just. Firstly, I'm a huge barley wine fan.
Another
in
big
general.
damn beer.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm just going to note that both you and Josh are drinking from full-size mugs.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I'm
Smug Club
already-
members,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, you're well into it.
2 years ago, me and my buddy, we always go out to AC for the AC Brew Fest, and we've started up doing like the 5K ahead of time. And after COVID, they moved the Brew Fest to June. So Atlantic City weather can be kind of hit or miss, but the first year we did the run, it was like scalding hot. It was like 80-some degrees June. And we just did the 5K. Like, I'm dying because I'm not built for 5Ks anymore. I don't play soccer anymore. And the first tent, because like once you finish, you can start drinking early then. And the first tent there was Broken Goblet with, I forget the name of their barley wine, but it was at least at 14%. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, we're here.
Daddy going in heavy.
Right. So we went straight for the barley wine, and I'm wearing like the medal from the run, all proud. And the guy says to me, goes, I will let you have all of these tasters right now, right away, and if you can chug that barley wine, because you are sweating your balls off. And I said, done. pounded that barley wine.
Challenge Ben.
And then started drinking the others, and it was probably the quickest I've ever gotten drunk at a brew fest, which might be saying something and it might not be. I'm not sure. But no, Boneshire's barley wine, though, is just it's like almost like especially like I feel like I'm not a big seasonal person. Like I can drink a stout in the summer, it's not a bother, but like a day like this where you can see the snow, there's still poinsettias sitting around, the Christmas tree's still kind of up. It just feels like I could put my feet up, sit there in front of the fireplace, kind of a beer, and just call it a day. Like, give me a cat in my lap type of a thing and a book, and I'd be all set, like it's...
Yeah, our last episode was on soup, and, there's a reason I did a soup episode.
Absolutely.
In January and not July. Yeah, same kind of thing.
It's all right in that,
So is it one of the, like, triple IPA barley wines, or is it more a malt pillow barley wine?
This is more malty.
Yeah.
It's got, it's a heavy feel. It's, I probably drank it far quicker than I normally do, just because I think with the atmosphere of this right now and everything.
Oh, man, are you kidding? When I walked in that door, I was just happy to be here alive.
Right?
So
car's not damaged. It's all good.
Right?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yay!
So I think it was a case where, this is meant to be, more of a sipping, I'm not... I feel like
it goes so smooth, though. It's hard.
It
That one is
smooth.
smooth.
It is a smooth, there's nothing bitter, nothing, you're picking it out, distinctly noting. It's just a very well-blended beer, which is, I think, why I do enjoy typically heavier beers. I do, a barrel-aged beer to me is, it's done right. It's just a wonderful... Because you're getting, a blended, the bourbon or whiskey or oak or whatever wood barrel... just gives it such a well-rounded...
Yeah, if it's well done, it's nice.
Yeah. Some of Trogue's Splinter beers and stuff that is... Yeah, Impending Descent's one of my favorites. For that reason, it's just... the barrel age for it is just wonderful.
So you get me a Testify. It's a rye pale ale or rye IPA?
Session IPA.
Yeah.
Session IPA. Okay.
Emphasis on the session.
It's got a great aroma. The hops are coming right out of it. Just about brilliant. Just a slight bit of haze to it. Not really.
A little bit.
Before hazy IPAs, I'd have said it was hazy, but now it's practically
practically clear. Yeah.
But it does have that rye twang to it too. When I take a sip,
I feel I think in that because you mentioned it, I feel we're somewhat moving back out of the haze phase.
Yes. Although I still see. Some real orange juice beers out there. But
I think there's the iconic breweries still mostly doing it. And I think some trying to imitate it still.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think there is maybe not a push,
no,
but
I'm seeing a lot of
pullback.
people what are they calling it? A new age IPA? It's
Okay.
a hybrid?
I've seen that Trogues did that Hop War, which they called a West Coast and East Coast IPA. And I like the idea of falling back from the hazy. Because, even my friends who aren't big craft beer fans, but will drink craft beer, they've gotten to the point of, I don't know, it's all one the same. I'm not going to throw any breweries under the bus on it, but, certain breweries will have 5 hazy IPAs, and this one's Simcoe and Citra. Right. This one's Mosaic and Citra. This one is Mosaic, Citra, and Simcoe.
A little more imagination, please.
Right, and you can't even tell the difference. You wouldn't even know they're each named different. That's the only way you know.
Yeah, but you are filling up the tabs.
And that is, the market share is always going to dictate.
Let's say the problem with that is the fact that those beers sell.
Right.
And they're relatively easy to make. Whereas when you go into a brewery and you see Pilsner, Lager, Stout, there's an IPA, but there's not more than 2. And
so the cost would be higher at that one, is what you're saying?
Maybe. It's possible. Mm-hmm. But if that brewery does them right, there's no reason why you can't have a variety on tap.
I also think that works best if they're the only brewery in the area that's doing that.
Ooh,
and everybody else is doing
let somebody else do it. We'll focus on...
Yeah. And those guys are picking up all the people who want the other stuff.
I
did a Hanover episode. I went to Hanover with a friend of mine. We ran into 3 ESBs in 2 days, which just blew my mind.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I get excited about.
Yeah,
If I see a
last 2
style
weeks, I had
that
3 Czech dark lagers.
if I see
See, that's
if
what
I
I'm
see
thinking.
Saison,
It's-
if I see Pilsner, if I see something other than
I'm getting it.
a haze, it's like,
Yeah.
just pour it and don't stop.
There's also that concept of when you go to a brewery when you're checking out new spots is you want to go to a brewery, you want to try it all to see like, okay,
Right.
what's their flagship? What do
What's
they got
their
going on?
strengths?
What's their seasonal?
What
You try
sucks?
to right.
Yeah.
You try to create that like perfect flight. And some places when you got like 6 IPAs, you're just like, okay, what do I do?
I have the stout.
That's-
Give me a stout. It's stout season
And the stout's
now.
weak. This is supposed to be a milk stout. Why does it taste like water brown?
Yeah, there's that.
What sells fastest?
right. That's
Unfortunately,
I go
it's
to
3
that
letters.
sometimes. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Typically, it
I'll
is.
pour another.
Yeah.
Right.
Increases profits automatically.
So you won't throw breweries on the bus,
I mean,
which is great.
no.
But I'm going to bring one up
Here we go.
because, number one, again, I am a little biased towards this, but
Sure.
Adroit Theory in Virginia,
Okay.
Yummy.
they have a portfolio that whatever they do seems to just print money, which is fine.
Wow, yeah. Good for them.
But I went to an event late last year. They have a portfolio that is typically IPAs, hazy IPAs, sours, and they get into Russian Imperial stouts and stouts. Now they are expanding.
Wow,
that.
are they funded by Untapped?
That's.
I
there's a
bring them
big-
up
yeah.
because the assistant brewer was mentioning that we are getting into different styles. So they're getting into lagers.
Wow.
Yeah, which
There's
is
2
great.
plates
And
there.
they're also
I need-
getting
There's 2 plates there.
under 7% because this is a brewery that almost since inception. So when their original brewer passed away, I think things changed a little bit.
Sorry, we had a bit of a hiccup there. My mother called, and at 92, I feel like I have to answer the phone. So
Yeah.
we did that. Mom's fine.
Understandably, really.
And
Yeah, well warranted.
Yeah.
while we were paused, we served out some pizza, and we're eating pizza. And now we're talking about pizza. So, Josh, please pick up where you were. I apologize.
No, you're absolutely fine. Again, mother at 92.
Gotta check mom.
God love her for being that
Yeah.
old, like good old age.
Especially when
she
she's
could-
calling you to tell you how much she
Well,
liked her Christmas
aw.
present.
At 92, she can officially say, I'm old.
Still doesn't want to.
No,
No,
but
no.
Good
and
for
again,
her. Yeah.
Yeah, if she's still of sound mind, and awesome. But anyway,
Yeah.
I mentioned Adroit Theory. Was at a beer dinner late last year, and the assistant brewer brought out the fact that, hey, we are expanding our essentially beer portfolio. Still going to offer the same beers that you guys know us for, the barley wines, the Russian Imperial Stouts, the hazy IPAs, all the stuff that we put out that has been out that you have loved. But now we're going to throw lagers and stuff that is lower, like under 7%. Now, my personal experience with them, I've never had a bad beer from them.
Ever.
I've gone to their brewery twice, have always had an awesome interaction with the people that are there. It's a brewery like Boneshire that can do no wrong. Do I absolutely love every single thing that either Boneshire or Adroit Theory does? Okay. My palate isn't set up for that. However, I will tell you, everything that I have had from them or from here to style, and it's been great.
You'd have another.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'm also somebody that they did a beer called 9. It was Roman numeral 9.
Yeah.
And it was made in reference to Dune.
Okay.
You guys
IX.
just experienced that?
Well,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
I got
Nice.
it about maybe a year or so ago.
So none of the
but I
easy
got
Dune
the
reference either.
I got the artwork.
Yes.
because they did like shipping for it. So
Okay.
it sits right next to my
So-
computer desk.
I'm on Tavour because I like to get beers out of the state. And at a time, they had those beers released through Tavour. I got all 3 in bomber bottles. I still
is
have them.
Bombers are just
Yeah,
not
you're
a-
right. What a bomber is?
You're
I
right.
may have to explain that to the listeners.
And
anyone under the age of like
Yeah.
25
Right.
does
Yeah.
not understand what bombers are.
And they have a metal fest, and they put on stuff that they have every year. And they were giving away wine glasses with the full wraparound artwork of all 3 cans that I questioned them on social media. And I said, hey, can I get where can I get one of these? Are these going to be available after this event? And they said, yeah, if we have any left over, sure. Sure enough, as soon as it was on the website, I bought it. Had to. Saved the final third bottle. Took a picture of all 3 bottles with the artwork. They have been on their social media amazingly responsive. They liked it and commented on it. And it's like, guys, I can only love you so much.
Right.
All right, I'm a fan for life. So they're down in Percival, Virginia. Love them dearly. We'll always go there. We'll always get their beer. It's like
it's a nice area, generally speaking. Like, there's a few other places. Not everything's not super close there, as far as cause some places are very brewery dense.
Yeah. Well, once you get off of 15, going down 15, there's Vanish, which I highly recommend. They call themselves a destination brewery, which for good reason. They have a sprawling area, and quite literally, you can do a 6-flight, 12-flight, or 20 flight.
Right, I think it's basically all.
Yeah, give it all.
Just all their taps.
Yeah.
And they span a very wide range of styles. Pretty good, too. The food's great.
Virginia's got a lot of farm breweries.
It's rich. It is rich.
Some are hit or miss, though.
A lot of yuppie areas.
Another good, just speaking of Virginia farm breweries, Wheatland Spring Farms. It was a beautiful, and we absolutely loved it. You sat in an old barn outside, heaters on, because we went in winter time. I forget what month, but just a wonderful had Leela with and everything, and dog friendly and stuff, and it was just beautiful. I think that we've often now this makes me want to think about it and talk about it, but we've often discussed that breweries come in a large variety of styles.
Yes.
Because when we come up with our game plans, hey, we're going to visit, say, I don't know, Richmond or Charlottesville, pick a town, city, whatever, and then we'll Google map or whatever, 8 breweries or 6 breweries or 5 breweries we're going to hit. They're not all going to fit, this formulaic what you picture breweries looking like. And we've come up with our terms and our definitions like me and Amy have when we travel, this is a strip mall brewery. Or this is an old, abandoned building that they bought kind of brewery. New Trail, beautiful place. But when you get into New Trail, feels all right, this
Did I take a wrong turn
I know.
somewhere?
Am I in some abandoned lumber yard?
Right.
Where exactly am I?
I'm going to get murdered out back here.
When you get inside. I mean, it's
it looks like what
echoing.
Right.
Axemen
Brewery is a very similar,
wonderful
an
location.
old former.
Yeah.
It's along that canal.
That place was built, whether they realized it or not, for COVID.
Oh yes,
my
God, yes.
I have heard from them, and I actually knew a gal that used to work there, and she was a streamer on Twitch. And I was like, wait a second, I know that brewery. Yeah, no, you weren't kidding, because of the sheer area that place covers.
We went there a couple times during COVID. It was not scary.
Wonderful.
And Axemen is great.
No,
No, it was after.
2021.
It was 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a place what's her name in Williamford, John Ryan.
Yep.
Oh, no, we did
exquisite
not go to John. We went to JJ Radigan.
Wow.
Oh, I thought we went to John Ryan.
And just up the street from Axemen is Robin Hood, and Robin Hood is essentially
So
a restaurant.
good.
Right.
It looks like an old Perkins
Exactly.
or Applebee's.
That's exactly
or
what
something.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Robin Hood is a fantastic.
Yep.
I can't
So
speak
good.
enough of them too. The food was fantastic. Beers are great.
The nice
Service
thing
was
is,
excellent.
Yeah.
if you turn, when you go into Robin Hood, if you turn left, you get old restaurant.
Yes.
If you turn right,
Yes.
you get bar.
Yes.
And I love that dichotomy.
Yeah.
Another place that does that is Rotunda.
The-
You have an
the
old
back
tiki
door?
bar,
Yeah.
and what used to be called the Bad Orf is still going to be known the Bad Orf, even though they renamed it. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It'll
Over in
never change.
Anvil.
I grew
They
up
have
with my
it.
cousin living
Yep.
there in LVC area.
And we've
so,
done
yeah.
kegs and eggs there.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about that place is you go in the back and it's a tiki bar and they have garage doors and it's great for the summer. If you want old English pub, they have that at the
that too.
front.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
it is beautiful. And in between you have rooms that are like European size because they're off the beaten path, quote unquote, and they're quiet. And there's a fireplace
Wow,
that isn't
nice.
lit, but it's right there.
We're talking about breweries now. I wanted to get to. We just had a rough year. We had a lot of places closed.
Yeah.
I mean, where you talked about Liquid Noise closing
Reopening.
and reopening.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
There's a number of places that didn't reopen. I mean, Mount Gretna comes to mind.
Yeah.
Helen Henry's.
yeah.
Tattered Flag.
Yep.
Devil Eye.
Three Beards.
Right.
Yeah.
Three Beards just closed.
It-
So are we... Is this just turnover? Or are we looking at something different?
So I'm trying to write up a very big, instead of just covering each one, and I'm going to always cover
Dude,
on
very
the
big
blog.
is what you do.
Right.
Right. I want to do a very large article, and I've been talking to some more in-depth people who know a lot more of the industry than I ever will. There's obviously a lot of factors. You can't just pinpoint it on
Sure.
Right.
one thing.
Yep.
Nothing ever can be.
Well, it's all about hazy IPAs. It's done and they need
It's
to
gotta
shut
be
down.
hazy.
Let that die.
I think one of the main points is we are at that 5 to 7 year window for a lot of breweries. A
Right.
lot of breweries opened in 2018 to 2019
There was a
time
big
frames.
surge. Yes.
And there is apparently a business model that 5 to 7 years you can survive those. You're kind of
Usual lease term as well.
right, and that was the other
Which
thing.
is 7 years.
Right, 5 to 7 years for a lot of businesses is a lease term. Yeah, and that's kind of where then, hey, if I'm in the if I'm running negative, how am I even paying my lease? Why would I keep?
Why keep doing that?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we're hitting that point with a lot of those 2018.
Some people are talking about we're also hitting payback on COVID loans.
Yep.
Or,
Yeah.
or did, and then people are suddenly wow, I can't do this.
There's also been talk of just as an industry as a whole, alcohol consumption is lower.
Yep.
Or they're switching from beer to other forms. Some of the my age of people, I know this is anecdotally, my own friends. Some of them are switching more from craft beer to more liquor, whiskey, rum,
Ooh, for
bourbon,
sure.
stuff like that.
Which
As-
works for me.
I mean, yeah.
But
We got Whiskey Santa here. Yeah.
as you age and stuff, you're starting some of them are at I'm not, but some of them
Right.
are
None
looking
of
into calories and how
Oh,
much
yeah.
they're actually physically.
And then, of course, they go and put in a cocktail, and all that's out
Right.
the window. But,
Right.
eh,
But,
What window?
Right.
But
There's no window.
it's a 17th story window.
I was going to call it a garage door, but
Okay.
so craft beer comes with its own issues, obviously, than health wise because it's a lot more caloric
Sure.
and stuff. And I think the industry itself did itself no favors with you get yourself into that mindset of non craft beer drinkers, your grandpa, your dad, your buddy, your boomer who's a Bud Light, Budweiser, Busch, whatever. And they're hearing you oh, this is a milkshake IPA that has strawberries and it's
Frou-frou.
cheesecake. Right? And you get a
Frou-frou.
lot of
Bullshit fruit bombs is what we
Right.
call it.
yeah, you get
diabetes bombs.
Yes.
Is what I heard one brewer call them.
you
I
get
mean,
into,
seriously.
No, you get into all these adjuncts added. This is a peanut butter twist twirl,
But it
with
turns into
caramel-
that one up, one up, one up.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is why there are people that exist that call, I just want a beer that tastes like beer.
right.
Right.
And I think to
Yeah,
some
before COVID hit, we were talking about doing a beer-flavored beer festival in,
Right.
in
Which
Millheim.
is fine.
Yeah.
It's yes, I love a beer that
Yeah.
tastes like childhood.
But
Right.
But
1980s childhood.
yeah,
Yeah.
let me
love the
see.
novelty names and all that.
Just
The
back
have
when
a,
Harrisburg
full
had-
ice cream and,
yeah.
and
Back when
put
Harrisburg
Frangelico
had
on it.
Harrisburg Brew Fest and they had Little Big Brew Fest.
Yes, which was a very
Before
fun event.
Wolfe was Wolfe, they had a Imperial German chocolate cake.
Yeah.
And on the nose, I smelled coconut, and you taste it, you get chocolate followed by the coconut, and it was I am suddenly 6 years old, and I love this beer to death.
Right.
So
Adjunct at the window, but
I mean,
I
I
don't
have to
care.
admit, one of the earliest ones of those things I tasted was not anything at all like that. We were all that's really weird. I love this. A brewery in Trenton, New Jersey did an imperial stout that tasted like pot sticker dipping sauce.
Ooh.
It was fantastic. It had ginger in it and peppers.
Yummy.
It was awesome. We just
So,
drank the shit out of
I would
it.
say the flavors out of that would be weird, but you're
It
if the
was,
combo
but-
works, I don't care.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But so
And we
in
all
that-
ordered dumplings. I don't know
But
why.
so in that vein,
Right.
though, that
Dip 'em in.
when it was that novelty, it was great.
Right.
flavored dumplings.
Right now it's expected, and you're like,
yeah, when it
What am I
becomes the
doing?
norm,
yeah.
it loses that appeal, it loses that luster.
Which is why you get into that
right,
competition.
because you
Right.
hear I hear people all the time saying why isn't Mad Elf or Nugget Nectar year rounds?
Oh,
Well-
yeah, you don't want to.
For good reason.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Because if Mad Elf or Nugget Nectar was a year-round beer, you'd be sick of it.
Well,
Or
not to mention if Mad Elf was year round, I'd probably be dead.
Right.
Just
My mom too.
Yeah.
My mom lives
Like
off that
Grandma
stuff.
Sue Ann is a
Yeah.
big fan.
Absolutely lives off of it.
Obviously, I'm the only one at the table that's not
a fan.
a Trogue's crazy nut.
You're not a nutball.
No offense to Trogues, but like Mad Elf, I'm not impressed with. Reason is,
Is it the cherries?
you
Sorry.
tell me it's a Belgian strong ale. Now, I'm the one that is it brewed to style. If I don't taste anything that's quote unquote Belgian, aka the yeast they use, it's not. I just
You're very particular on the style, though. It needs to
I
be
am.
real. Yeah.
to a fault.
There's
Yeah,
certain
that's
room for that,
respectable.
absolutely.
Because
Right.
if I'm going to drink
Respectable.
it and pay for it, like it better be freaking good.
And that's sometimes where it comes into play with is a brewery holding strong, because you have people coming in that just want a good beer. They know their style. They know the styles they want. But there's also like that crowd of people that like have no freaking idea, and you're
Or care.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you're
Right.
serving them whatever. And sometimes it's your friends will tell you what you want to hear,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and
We've
you're not really
definitely-
having a good business there.
Right, cutting back to kind of the topic of breweries closing.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think there was definitely a surge, and obviously I think COVID just being COVID and just being a hell of a time
right.
obviously curtailed everything.
Everything.
But I think like 2018, 2019, as like brewery industry like was on the rise, you got a lot of home brewers who just got their like buddies like blown smoke so far up their ass.
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this.
Right. Like
Aunt Rose died. I have an inheritance. I'm going to open a
right,
brewery.
like, if I came up
Yay.
with any
Adorable.
level of income to sustain it to start with, or any level of equity, or I could get a loan, which
Yeah.
I like talking to my
Pretty
dad.
easy then.
Yep.
And talking to my dad, who worked at like a large bank, I'm not going to obviously say the name of the bank either, but because they do commercials with breweries actually to promote how they were like helping mom and pop shop type
Sure.
stuff. There was a big push in like just before COVID timeframe, like 2018, 2019, even early 2020s, that breweries were going to be like this new industry that could really help
Yep.
small communities. Like
I mean, they have a high
And they still
employment.
do.
Right.
And they
know?
still do. Don't get that
and it's
wrong. Right.
Even a small town like Hummelstown, Hershey, everything should have their own brewery type of a thing, right? And then this idea that is mom and pop bolstered up. Problem was most of them were just a home brewer.
Yeah.
Some of them very good home brewers.
Right.
No disrespect for them as home brewing, but like no business acumen,
Right.
no anything knowledge of like the financial sphere. And then it's like, well, I can brew beer. I can run a business.
No.
No.
And
No.
I think that's where we're now getting to that
Yeah, some
point
of those are hitting.
they're hitting the bricks because like they didn't have a restaurant, which COVID then
Right.
obviously
You just
everyone,
need that little bit of food or something.
What do you, in your experience, what do you think is one of the bigger reasons for like? Because I definitely don't think we're at like a bubble bursting moment. I don't think there is like a bubble to burst. I think it's going to be a constricting. Because I do look at like Dewclaw merging with like River Horse,
So
Yeah.
I think you're
Flying
gonna see more
Dog
of that.
merging with FX Matt.
Speaking of flying fish, just declared back.
I did hear that like the other
Yeah.
day, and it's
Yeah.
like stuff like that. Like I think we're in a more of a constricting than like a full out like the
Consolidation.
yeah like the bubbles
Yeah.
burst. I think the one guy I talked to who was on like the marketing and sales for like some bigger regional breweries, and he's been on a couple now. His comment was, if you're not a large enough size brewery, and he listed like three, and I'm going to give their examples just because
Sure.
right. Trogues, and this is our
Yeah, yeah.
area type stuff. Trogues, Rusty Rail, New Trail.
Right.
And he said, if you're not their size type distribution, don't get into distribution.
Ugh.
There's no point to it.
That's
Yeah.
a whole nother discussion, honestly.
Well, right.
Distribution
But he-
from the brewery. That's a whole nother
And he
discussion.
said, like,
Maybe we should come back for another episode.
right?
so his comment to that was, shift yourself to just being that local brew pub. Have a good restaurant or food. Have that like local beer that they're only going to get at your place. So they
Yep.
have to
Yep.
come to your place. Do you would you say that's like in your experience or knowledge?
I think that's some of it, but I think there's, as we mentioned, as you said earlier, there are a bunch of different models, and I honestly, even at this point, I think there are several different models that work,
Yeah.
and I don't think you need the restaurant. I kind of hope you don't. My issue with the whole thing is this proliferation of tap rooms
Yeah.
really put a hurting on the classic craft beer bar.
Yeah.
A lot of them went under.
Yeah.
I mean, old school ones, Falling Rock in Denver, the Gray Lodge in Philly. A lot of
Monks
these places
is a special place that I think
Monks
can
is-
hold up.
is in
Bull's
good-
Head
good
and
shape.
Lidditz, I think, can
Sure.
hold up.
But-
But I do think there is...
people don't go to them.
Right,
as much.
because I've even personally thought to myself, if I'm going to drink a beer, I'd rather just go to the brewery.
See, I get into a new town and I want to go to a beer bar so I can sample a number.
Try
of
them
Okay.
all.
Yeah.
See, the problem with a beer bar there is you're also going to get the quote-unquote staples, which
The
is
flagships.
Yeah.
Depends,
Or,
on,
yeah.
depends
But-
on the bar.
right.
Yeah.
But
True.
if you're going to get into a beer bar, there's one down in Maryland where I had the Adroit Theory beer dinner, and they're a beer bar, but they have everything from everywhere, and I did not see anything Michelob or InBev or Coors,
Good.
which is comforting.
Yeah.
But it like you're saying, it's also kind of, I'm scared for them.
Do they,
Yeah.
you think-
Scared for
you think
them
they run
as in-
themselves out?
Oh.
Yes and no, because if there are a couple breweries that are within, let's say, 90 miles of them, radius,
Right.
they do beer dinners. People are going to come in. They're going to be like, okay, I'm here for this brewery, but, this is what you're offering? This is the social media presence you guys have? This is, I think it's called Roast House down in Maryland, off of 15.
Okay.
That is one specific case where they offer just about anybody's beer nerd pleasure. And I say it that way on purpose.
No,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are places like Standard Tap in Philadelphia. They concentrate on breweries within 100 miles. That's all they do. They only do draft.
Do you
Yeah.
think
I love
that's
that.
sustainable in the future given things, though? Are you thinking
I don't
this
know.
is a dying breed?
Well, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about, and especially in Pennsylvania, because we've got the supermarkets soaking up
Yep.
Yeah.
bar licenses.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
Which makes the license more
I mean-
expensive because of the screwed up system we have.
It-
And then you've got competition from the tap houses or tap rooms, and then you've got competition from places like TGI Fridays and Chili's, and
Yeah.
and they're also soaking up
'Cause
licenses.
you go to
especially now after COVID.
I'm not an Applebee's every other day of the week. I haven't been to an Applebee's probably actually in 3 or 4 years. But I remember the last time I was, they did have at least 2 or 3
Yep.
Trogs.
Yep.
They did
Yep.
have
Especially the one in Hershey.
right.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They would have maybe Evergreen or one or two.
At least
others.
Juicy. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, I
and-
mean, it took a while, but that does happen, and
Right.
that's not good for the beer bar either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if and I think there is we're also in a weird maybe falling back from this because I think there was a definite push, and I don't know if it's just because of Untapped, but that idea of every single I want to have every single beer
Yeah.
the Pokemon catch 'em all type
Yeah.
approach,
And I got to
Like-
tell you, coming from whiskey, you can't do it.
right? And
It's
I think
just
and I think
give up.
and I think people in general
I
are
don't
starting to
wanna-
get more to this is my flagship. I really like Perpetual IPA. I really like Juice Juicy.
I'm going to die on this hill.
Right?
And I think people are kind of falling back to that. I don't care if I've had this beer 5,000 times before. I like the beer. It's a good beer. I want that beer. Rather than because I can say I've been very guilty of this in my own past.
Yep.
Going to a bar and be there's 4 beers on that tap I know I've had before, and a 5th I've never had. I try that 5th one first.
Yeah.
And it may or may not have sucked.
Well, you
And-
take the gamble at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
and-
Because you go so you go to a beer fest. Okay, I've had beers from breweries A through F, and they've been so-so. Sure, I'm going to try again because maybe, just maybe, they were getting used to their system the first 2 years, and now
Sure.
this third year,
Yeah.
it's going to be phenomenal.
But
then-
Josh, how often are you in a brew fest though? And more than halfway through the brew fest, does that really count? You're trying those beers because you're trying those beers at that point.
So this is a specific case.
Okay.
But I'm also going to say that there are breweries that I anchor down as, okay, I need a good beer. I'm going to go here.
Okay.
Again, since we're here and since I am biased, I will make that known. When I go to a brew fest and I've tried everybody else and it's I just need a good beer, I'm going to go back to Boneshire's tent and I don't care if I've had that beer 700 times.
In the
Just
90s, at the
give it here.
Scouts festivals, we always wound up back at Brooklyn drinking Brooklyn Lager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we knew it was good and it was.
Yeah,
It's on point.
I need to recenter myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Brewfest also in that same vein of talking about like, breweries closing. I think Brewfests are somewhat on their way out.
They're not
I
as
mean, they're not dead.
No.
But they're working their way out. And the bad Brewfests, or like just the Brewfests that were just like, let's get as many breweries in. We don't care about quality, control, nothing.
Yeah.
Because like I know,
Or even just making sure that people leaving there aren't completely inebriated or aren't driving. That kind of like responsible ones.
Yep.
Too.
Because there's a level of like, and this is I think
That's
once
a
again,
weird thing because I've actually seen more of that at beer festivals than at whiskey festivals.
Oh, a little scary.
And you're working with ABVs that, now grant you this is different alcohol and it's going to affect you differently.
Yeah.
But it's like at whiskey festivals, if they have barrel strength or above, it's
there
like
aren't a lot of 80 proof whiskeys at the festivals. Yeah.
you're looking at like 60-50%.
Yep.
See, and this is and COVID's also always going to be a play on things. Like we can't maybe get
It's definitely got a factor.
right. Like, it's weird to like judge.
it will
Like
be.
we're 3-4 years out of COVID now, like out of the mainstream of when COVID happened, and
Whatever you want to call it.
right. But so it is hard to somewhat judge things
Time is
still
hard
yet.
to figure after COVID on
Right.
good things.
I think though, like when my experience from like pre-COVID to like around COVID time at Brewfest was like every tent would always like at a Brewfest is you got 2 beers. You got your flagship and what would probably be your best selling or what would catch people's opinion to come to your brewery. Because the point of a brewery at a Brewfest
Maybe
is to
something
make,
new and weird.
right.
Yeah.
A lot of the time that was an IPA. And guess who their flagship was usually?
An IPA?
So your 5th 10 in at a Brewfest, you've probably had like 8 IPAs already.
And a lot of people are stoked for that.
And
Right.
your tongue is numb.
Right, that's the other half of it.
Yeah.
Like,
So let me go get a sour or a stout to recenter myself.
And the problem then also becomes like you have no catch-all ability to know that brewery was better than that
Right.
brewery because your IBUs have been up, down, left, right,
And
centered.
your ABVs are.
Right, and I mean obviously you're, especially at like hour 4 of a brew fest, you're
Right.
not really able to go, that was the beer I wanted.
Yeah.
That brewery I have to visit.
No,
So
you're
it
more
is
in the, I'm going to go have a cigar, I think, now.
Yeah,
right.
Another one. Yeah, it was the last one tasted good.
But so, like tying that back to actual breweries closing, I think it's going to be like there is like somewhat of a finding the next fad, and because I mean, obviously for money marketing purposes, you always want to be ahead of the curve. You want
Right.
to find the next fad, and seltzers are kind of that ready to make cocktails.
We brought
are,
it up.
I think that's over.
I mean, now,
Yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
saying like 2022, 2023.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was kind of the thing.
Yeah, everybody got on it.
But like now, I
Yeah.
think like it's trying to get to that, and it might be more of a diversification, like because I think there is a pullback from the hazies, and so I'm hoping anyway, just as a palate, like
Not
a
to
person
everyone,
likes
but
to
yes.
drink. Right?
Yeah. I think there is a broader appeal to a broader appeal, if you
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
And I think there's also a weird, like we did talk about that, like there is some benefit, and in 2018 there was probably more benefit of like you visited a town and you knew there was 8 breweries in that town. There's 8 breweries that were actually benefiting from the fact that there's 8 of them
Yes. Yeah. You're drawing them in.
there. Right. Now maybe not so much. Like they're actually like the old adage in the craft beer industry being like we're not in competition. We're just
Right.
trying to get a some of the pie type of thing.
Yeah.
I think now there actually is competition.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
if
and I
there's
think
three-
that consolidation thing you noted was.
Yeah.
was a
But it
big
also
effect
depends
of
on what town you're going to. Because a place like York, I know that there are breweries that that city has this beautiful dichotomy of you have Collusion, you have
Yeah.
Mudhook, you have Gift Horse, you have Liquid Hero.
Yeah.
And if any of those breweries are like, hey, I'm a little light on hops, can you like spare?
Oh,
Everybody is jumping
No,
in.
yeah, I don't
And
mean
it's
it.
right, but it does depend on the location because some cities treat it as no, I'm better than you, and some
Yeah.
cities are like we're a family. Shut the hell up.
I don't
in
think.
in the whiskey industry, people say, the production guys, what do you need? You need corn? Not a problem. You need this. You
Yeah.
get while the sales guys are out there having a knife fight over a 200 milliliter bottle sale in Alaska.
Let them be the ones that fight.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's what they're for.
I think another better example of like
Earn your damn paycheck.
breweries in Hull as a community is I think it was last winter when Hemauer Brewing,
Their fire.
the family house burnt down. And it was okay, so they were doing some fundraisers at the brewery, but then every other brewery, including the one that we're at right now, Boneshire, had some sort of jar or was doing like $1 off of like whatever pint. Every brewery in this area. That is a community.
Yeah.
That is a family.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's a brotherhood.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much that the breweries are looking at themselves as competition in that sense, because they're still doing collaborations and stuff.
Right.
Sure.
But I think as a market share, just due to people's money being more limited, just availability, people aren't like traveling like destination like, oh, I can go to this town and do 5 breweries, and I'm going to do all 5. Now it's like I'm going to happen to be in that town because of X event. I have time to do 1 brewery. Which is the one out of those 5 I do?
I see that question come up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like
the Hanover thing was pretty cool because there's 3 on a block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just walk around.
yeah. But like I'm not sure that now maybe that's going to scale back to like not being the benefit it used to be.
Right.
Where like years ago, 3 breweries on a block was like a great thing. Like I could go to 1, 2, 3, and you're getting tourism. Now it's
So what's changed?
People's mentality, maybe.
I think it's some mentality.
COVID thing?
It could be like
Coming out of
I'm
COVID.
not a huge person. Like I'm a little bit of an introvert in that sense. But like COVID made me more in that.
I love
You opened
Sorry,
a can
this
of worms, dude.
There's a ton of quiet scoffing around the table. Look, while we're stopping, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap
Yeah.
up. That's about all I got.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much.
This is awesome.
Appreciate you, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out today. I hope I can get home today.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be checking our text just to make sure you did it. Because
All right.
Gosh.
my conscience won't be very good if you don't
Right,
get
right.
home at this
Yeah,
point.
what kind of event would this be if, like, the 3 of us get home and then we hear Lou's like,
By the way, guys,
well, that's a downer.
we'll come get you.
Yeah, we'll send a tow truck halfway out.
Josh, Amy, Ben, thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That
was great.
It's been wonderful.
We really should have talked more about the tomatillo pizza, which was juicy and delicious. Boneshire is known for their pizza, both for the innovation and the general deliciousness, and I can see why. Also, they should definitely stop doing interviews with the mics sitting on plastic folding tables. There's a lot of rumbling and thumping in the interview. Sorry about that. I didn't go straight home, even though the snow was falling hard. I tarried at Boneshire for a mug of English porter with my good friends Dwayne Hoffman and Carolyn Bletchley, fans of the show who live not far away. The porter was excellent, as was the moment. Cheers, you two. Like me, Dwayne and Carolyn are big fans of the Pennsylvania Farm Show. If you haven't listened to last year's Farm Show episode, it's number 6, you really should. We went, Nora and Kathy and I, on the next to last day. It was swarmed with kids' groups, and we made our way to the milkshake line. I took station, while Kathy was away to the mushroom stand, and Nora went for potatoes. We rendezvoused and took stock. 1 chocolate shake, 1 half and half, 2 baked potatoes and a boat of pierogies, fried mushrooms, mushroom soup, and a blended beef mushroom burger. I had some mushrooms, which, they are the best fried mushrooms. A bite of the burger, and I ripped into my milkshake. Then I hustled over to the barbecue stand and got a goat sloppy joe with Texas barbecue sauce. My goodness, that was smoky sweet and tasty. So we wandered off. We looked at cows. Nora bought some yarn at the alpaca stand. We saw the butter sculpture, of course. Then I cruised the marketplace looking for places that would be interesting for future episodes. And all too soon, we had to leave. If you've never been to the Pennsylvania Farm Show, you really should. Pennsylvania is a national leader in agriculture, and you can see that in the animals and people there displaying their products and talents. The animals get the most attention: cows, horses, sheep, goats, the huge rabbits. Still no poultry, as avian flu is an ongoing threat. But it's not just animals. Pennsylvania grows and makes apples, mushrooms, dairy products, Christmas trees, honey, maple syrup, and yes, beer, wine, and cider. Cookies, jams, pies, canned fruits and vegetables, quilts and other crafts, cooking demonstrations with Pennsylvania produce and Pennsylvania chefs, and those gallons of wonderful milkshakes. Make plans for next year, and bring some young children. they should know where food comes from. So tonight, January 25th, is Burns Night, the international commemoration of the birth of Scottish poet Robert Burns in 1759. 5 years after his death in 1796, friends held a commemorative dinner and toasted his memory and recited his brave egalitarian Scots poetry, including A Man's a Man for All That, Tam O'Shanter, Scots Wha and Auld Lang Syne. We're doing a Burns Night dinner at the house. Friends are bringing vinyl recordings of Burns' poetry, books of the poems to read aloud, oh, we will, and that great chieftain of the puddin' race, a haggis. Haggis has a bad reputation, and there are many jokes made about it, but it's just a steamed pudding made with oatmeal and offal. If the French made it exactly the same way, we'd be lined up around the block. Douse it with whiskey and HP sauce, and aye ye gay. To support the haggis, we're cooking tatties and neeps, mashed potatoes and mashed rutabagas, and I got some smoked haddock at Main Bay and Berry in State College to make Finn and Hattie, that toothsome chowder, because, of course, it's still soup season. By the way, I talked to Sean Knight at Main Bay and Berry. I think there's going to be an upcoming episode about the various places who bring the best seafood to our landlocked paradise. We're also making Cranachan, a wonderful parfait of whiskey-soaked pinhead oatmeal, cream, honey, and fresh raspberries. I first had this at the legendary Monk's Cafe in Philadelphia and begged an extra portion to take back to Kathy. She was asleep when I got home, and I woke her up and spoon-fed her some of it. It's been a favorite of ours ever since. And I will have some good Scotch drink. I'm headed over to the secret off-site location of my whiskey stash to pick out a few good bottles to oil the tonsils and properly toast the lassies. Because even though Burns Night isn't just about the whiskey, but about the man and his legacy and the commonality of all, well, Robbie Burns would have been the last to say nay to a drop of malt. Slàinte mhath. That's the show. My thanks to Ben, Amy, and Josh for coming out in the snow to talk beer, and thanks to Alan Miller at Boneshire Brew Works for hosting us. You can see pictures for this episode on Instagram at Stag Podcast and on Facebook at Seen Through a Glass. If you'd like to toss a bit in my hat to keep the show going, please do consider the coffee button in my Instagram link tree, Twitter profile, both are at Lou Bryson, and at the Facebook page. This is an easy way to drop me a few bucks to help keep this going. And if you've already donated, thank you. Fruit Loops come in 6 different colors, but they're all the same flavor. The next episode? Well, as I mentioned on the Facebook page recently, I really did do a lot of brainstorming, and we have a lot of new ideas. But it's been a while since we did a town profile, so that's what's coming. There are 2 possibilities, both in a part of central Pennsylvania that's new to Seen Through a Glass. It all depends on which one works out for scheduling. As always, that's in 2 weeks. Until then, thanks for listening. This is Lou Bryson on Seen Through a Glass, from the smack dab center of the Keystone State.